Hi there, Sherman Street Church. Hope this video finds you well. It is Monday, Thursday, 2020, and I just went outside to try to record this on our porch, and it started hailing all of a sudden. So now I'm back up in the Holmes Curran attic. There's Mark and Kathy's house next door. But I want to share with you a little bit about what's been happening here in our house and reflect for a few minutes with you on the meaning of Maundy Thursday as we enter into this Easter weekend of Holy Week. So part of what we've been doing to pass the time here with three little kids is the kids and I have, I've been doing church stuff in the morning and Jen's had the kids in the morning, and then we switched in the afternoon. So I have him in the afternoons, and one of the things we've been doing to pass the time is we're working on a project in our basement. We're building a play castle, and by play castle I mean, 150, 200 square foot, 3 or 4 level wooden permanent installation into our basement. And this has been fun and a creative outlet and something to do with my hands to try to keep my sanity through the midst of this. Anyway, yesterday, Oscar was helping me work on our build this play castle, and I asked him to hold up one end of a 2x4, an 8-foot 2x4, while I drilled in the other side. I wanted him to kind of help me. I had a level on it, and he was helping me get it balanced. And he was holding it, and then he was getting bored, so he's kind of holding it on his head. And I was trying to, kind of down eye level, trying to get this thing secured when it slipped off his head and kind of came rolling off, and it kind of flipped out of my hands, and somehow it didn't hit me right in the face, but it kind of like fell right in front of me, and I caught it, but it scared me enough that I turned to Oscar and just quickly said, "Oscar!" And I could immediately see this look on his face of just devastation. And immediately I felt like, okay, I overreacted. I didn't cuss or anything. I think if it would have hit me in the face, that very well might have happened. But I could see in his face that I had wounded him. And I went over to him. I was like, "Are you okay, bud?" "I'm okay. Are you okay?" "That's kind of scary, huh?" And he just kind of, all he said was, "I'm really cold. I feel really cold." And so then he ran off and he found, we have this carpeted area in our basement, and he found this sort of blanket comforter kind of pad, that's 3 foot by 3 foot pad that sits inside this teepee. And he wrapped it around himself and he laid down in this little cocoon of shame. And I went over to him and just said, "You sure you're okay, bud?" He's like, "Yeah, Dad, I'm fine. I'm just cold. I'm just cold." And I said, "Okay." And I kind of kept working and said, "Okay, Oscar, do you want to, come on, man, why don't you keep helping me? You're my helper. Come on, buddy." And he just stayed laying in there for another 5 minutes, just quiet. And it wasn't until finally when I went over to him and I got down on the carpet with him and crawled into this little comforter cocoon of shame alongside him, and asked him, "Are you okay, buddy? That was pretty scary, huh? And maybe I shouldn't have. I'm sorry." I think I said, "I'm sorry for, having you hold such a big board. That's a big board for a little guy. He's only 6 years old." And you could kind of see in his face a bit of a change, and he finally just said, "Me no like holding 2x4. I don't want to hold 2x4 anymore." I said, "Yeah, that was pretty scary, huh? That's a big board. It's heavy." But there was something about entering alongside him in that shame and being at his level, descending into that space with him, and the power of empathy in that moment to give him space to express how he felt and to reflect that back to him. That within seconds he had popped up. I said, "Do you want to come back and help me now?" He said, "Yeah, Dad, yeah." And he popped up and we got back to work. And as I reflected on this and the nature of that movement, I realized last night, talking about this story with Jen, that this is the very movement of Easter weekend. This movement of descending down, of coming alongside, to rise with another. And have you ever noticed that movement of descending down, coming alongside, and rising with is a movement, is a pattern that reverberates throughout all the stories of Holy Week. Today is Maundy, Thursday. Many of you are sitting with a bowl of soup right now, as is usually the tradition of Sherman Street on this Thursday of Holy Week, to gather, to share soup together, and then to reflect on the last evening of Jesus's life before death together. Jen's downstairs prepping black bean soup that she's making for us for dinner. So today's Maundy, Thursday. What is Maundy, Thursday all about? Well, there's a few different layers to it, but again, multiple layers, but the same movement. It's, of course, the story of the night before Jesus' death, as well as the story of Jesus gathering with his 12 disciples in the upper room to celebrate the Passover, which has all sorts of layers itself of blood being put over the doorposts of the homes of the people of Israel and saving them from judgment. And it's also, of course, the story, the night of the occasion of Jesus speaking those mysterious words, "This bread is my body broken for you. This wine is my blood shed for you. Do this in remembrance of me." It's from this meal that we get those words of institution. And it's also the story that last night in the upper room of Jesus, of God in the flesh, getting down on his hands and knees to scrub the caked dirt off the feet of his disciples. And it's the story of his then rising back up and commanding them to go and do likewise. "I give you a new commandment," he says. That word commandment in the Latin is mandatum, from which we get mandate or commandment. And that's where we get this word Maundy from Maundy, Thursday. "A new commandment I give you," he says, "that you love one another just as I have loved you." And so many different layers to what's happening in the upper room that night. So many layers, but the same movement, again, in each, of descending down, of coming alongside, to rise again with. This has been the strangest season of Lent in my memory. Who would have guessed a few months ago that we would have gone through these 6 weeks of Lent, not able to be together because of physical distancing. Spending these 6 weeks, most of it in lockdown, as the world, it seems, sort of shuts down as this virus passes through. And if your experience has been anything like ours, this has been hard. And I continue to read how all of us, if not most of us, are seeing in our lives some of the effects of trauma, of not being able to think straight, of being distracted. And I described, Jen and I talking the other night, just our own kind of fights as we bump up against each other, stuck in this house with 3 little kids, and trying to pastor church and homeschool and continue to go out and get food, which is its own traumatic experience, and to do laundry and keep things clean, and to try to stay sane in the midst of this. I described it to Jen as like, it feels like we're in this pressure cooker, and it's bringing out, in a lot of ways, some of the worst of each of us. And so it's a context in which there's lots of ways that shame for you might be bubbling up and coming to the surface. Some deep-seated stuff emerging in the midst of the pressure cooker, whether you live with others or whether you live with own in the pressure cooker of isolation. And so there's lots of shame that comes up, shame from the ways in which those of us who are parents of small kids might be losing our patience, or parents of older kids too. The ways that we revert to old habits that we had thought we had maybe let die a long time ago. Or maybe even just the shame of grief. The shame of all the grief and the disappointment of what's been lost in this plans and vacations and weddings and time with loved ones and being able to gather in person, to have soup together on Maundy, Thursday, to celebrate Easter soon together. All the loss, not even to mention the sickness and the death. There's plenty of space for all of this shame to emerge in us. And I want to encourage you and remind you that it's in the cross and resurrection that Jesus descends and meets us in the depth of all of our shame and our self-protection and our isolation. And in that space, it's Jesus who lifts us instead into love and openness and true community. One person coming alongside another in their shame, a master getting down on his knees to wash his disciples' dirty feet, a feast made possible in the breaking of bread and the pouring of wine, all variations on the one same pattern of death and resurrection. And so all of these stories usher us deeper still into the drama and the mystery of Easter weekend. They point our way to the cross of Good Friday, and through it to the empty tomb of Easter Sunday. And so as you wrestle in the pressure cooker of life right now, and all of the fear and anxiety and grief and shame, my prayer for you tonight is this: that you may know the God who has come low to meet you, the one who longs to crawl beside you in your shame. And may you allow his love for you to enter into the darkest depths of your broken heart, that he might take what is dead there and raise it to life. Be blessed, my sisters and brothers. The Lord is with you.